We continue our series of live interviews with artists and creatives all over the world. And today I'm thrilled, because really thrilled to have Mabel Ten, a very talented pattern designer, and her work is a vibrant blend of creativity and commercial appeal. So we're really lucky today because I'm going to ask Mabel about her insights on the myth that surrounds pattern design and art licensing. I'm sure that many of you are interested in these questions about how to earn money on pattern design, how to license your art, and all these questions. Today we can ask Mabel. So we will be sharing some helpful tips for creatives. And if you want to get all these best takeaways from this live, from this chat, you're welcome to subscribe to the newsletter. There's a link in my bio or in the description of the video, and I will be happy to send you an email with all the top topics and tips that we will highlight today. And also please check out Mabel account, as there's a lot of inspiring content on pattern design and also a lot of secrets of pattern design there too. So we are diving in, and I'm adding Mabel to this live. Yes. So questions in the comment. I'm sure that it will be a very interesting discussion about pattern design. Hi, Mabel. Hi.
Lena, how are you?
I am fine, thank you. And how are you? How are you today?
I'm really well, thank you.
Yeah,
Um, just let me know if you can hear me okay. I see some people commenting that they can't hear you, but I can hear you perfectly fine.
I can hear you well, and I saw there also a comment that other people can hear us. So please tell us in the comments if you can hear us. We will try to fix it. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining this live, and I'm really inspired by your career as a pattern designer, and just checking out your reels and Instagram. You have a house studio, it looks like a studio actually, with all this bedlining with your patterns and all other goodies like cups and so on. So I'm really very curious to ask you about all this stuff, but I would like to start with the very simple question. Please share with us your artistic background. Do you have any education in pattern design? How did you come up to pattern design?
Okay, so I am not a trained artist. It is very self-taught. I actually came from an advertising background. I didn't really, well, advertising slash magazine. So I used to be a writer. And after I became, when I moved to Australia, I decided to not work in magazines as a writer anymore. And I started to as a fine art photographer. And to pay the bills, I work in retail. So I did all sort of like things before I fell into surface pattern design. So as you can tell that I never had any art education. I always loved to draw as a child, but that is the extent of my artistic talents. So so I was a fine art photographer for a while, and I sold my prints on Etsy. And I could do this, and my prints did really well on Etsy until I decided to close it and go on vacation for about 8 months. And the reason why was because I just had my first baby, and I wanted to spend some time with my baby. But what I didn't know was where if you close your shop on Etsy for more than a month, the algorithm changes. It stops the traffic going to your shop. So my sales went down. I had such a hard time getting it back up again, and so I had to think of ways to earn a living creatively. I didn't want to go back to corporate. I didn't want to work in retail anymore. I wanted to spend time with my son. And so 5 years of looking, and I took a course online about surface design. And when I first got that email, it was about how to make your own fabric. And I love fabric. I don't know how to sew, but I love walking to a fabric shop. and I would like touch fabrics, and I would like, just look at the patterns on fabric. And I just like never thought about the creative process, what you have to do to design fabric. And this course taught me how to do the fabric, like how to design for fabric, how to pitch to companies. And I was like, all right, let's try this. And that was my first insight to surface design. And after that, for about 18 months, all I did was draw patterns, repeat patterns after repeat patterns, creating collections. I didn't pitch until a year after. And when I did pitch, I pitched to all sort of companies, like companies that I always loved, companies like Rise in Denmark, and companies like home decor shops in Australia. And that's how I got my art out on products.
That's so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing. And I find it's really very inspiring when I hear that people just know their passion and continue even with the hard things that you met on your journey with this Etsy issue, but you continued. And I think it's really important just to, okay, we sometimes need some break to take it, but it's really needs a lot of courage and love to what you are doing
Yeah.
to take another step and another step.
I have to
Uh,
say, I think one of the questions that I always asked myself was, what did I love doing? And I always turn back into that feeling of that your gut is already telling you that if you love something as a child, that is the closest thing that you have to do in life. That's like your purpose in life. So I think for me is I've always loved drawing. I've always loved making art. But my parents, being Asian parents, saying, no, no, no money in art. You can't have an art degree. You can't. Actually, in fact, I had an art scholarship. I had a scholarship to go to an art school. And my mom said I couldn't go. And that's why I never had an education in art. But when I grew up and I was in my late 30s, that was when it hit me. I'm like, I'm an adult now. I can make my own decision in life. If I want to do art and pursue art, I think I'm giving myself the approval to go ahead.
Yeah, that's so true. I had the same situation when I was little. Art was something not serious, and even when I dared to attend to a graphic designer in the university, my grandmother, who she was raising me, and she said something like, "Okay, these scribbles look nice, but how are you going to earn money with this? I can't understand it." Yeah, so I can relate to your story with parents at some point. Okay, but anyway, you did this and now you earn money with pattern design, with art. It's really very interesting to know if you can share with us how some of the myths, some of the misconceptions about pattern design and art licensing. Let's dive into this topic.
Yeah, I have my notes with me. So I love this topic because everyone that ask me this question, the first thing that I always get is um, the market is oversaturated. There's too many designers. There's not enough work. Like there's no room for me anymore. And and this is one of the biggest myths that I feel in my heart because it's not true. Because when I go out, if I'm in an Uber or if I'm at a party and someone asks me, oh, what do you do? And I said, I'm a surface designer. No one knows what surface designer is. If you tell them, oh, I'm an accountant or I'm a doctor or I'm a photographer or a graphic designer, they know what those jobs are. But no one knows what surface designing is. And I have to like explain to them, oh, I design for companies to put on like wallpaper or big sheet. And then they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, is that such like a job like
Yeah.
that? They've never heard of that job. So, to me, that tells me that there is such a huge gap in the market for surface design. It is very different from graphic designers and it's very different from an artist. It's right in the middle of those two jobs. And there's so many new companies now that's popping up because it's easier to have a company with online business these days. And a lot of new companies don't know what art licensing is, they don't know what surface design is, but they know that they like my work, they like the art that I put out in the world, and they go, oh, how can I work with you? And so that's when I go, here's what we do, here's the process. And yeah, so there's always opportunities out there because there's so many new businesses in the world that's popping up, and there is just a lot of opportunities that we ourselves don't know yet.
Yeah, and what is your process? How you decided to be a a pattern designer? What's next? You create a collection, or try to find some brands to collaborate, try to find clients, build a portfolio. What was your
Yeah.
process in this?
So let's start with art making. So the difference between a graphic designer and an artist is surface designers is right in the middle because I create the art first. So a graphic designer always wait for a brief,
Yeah.
then they create the art. And artists create the art they want to see, and that's very similar to me. I create the art that I want to see. And I love creating art according to themes. So, for example, I feel like I wanted to create a theme about spring garden, and I like to create with a collection. It's not always necessary to create a collection, but that's just like something that I like to do because it's like creating a story with art. Um, and so I create my collection first, and I usually create between 6 pieces of art to 10 pieces of art. And then I also think at the back of my mind who is this collection going to be for? Is it going to be for fabric? Is it going to be for home decor? Is it going to be for wallpaper? Because each collection and each people that you create for is going to have to be suitable for the end user. So, for example, collections would require to have 2 hero art prints, 4 complex coordinates, and blender prints, which is like really simple patterns. So it would go really nicely with the hero print. But it not necessarily is the same for home decor. Home decors don't need that necessarily. They just need mainly placement print, or stationery needs, different things. So if I want to create for a company, I always think what the purpose is for. Because at the end of the day, you are a product designer. Who your end user is really important to create that collection for that company. So once I decide that, okay, I want this to be for fabric, for example, I create the art, and then I create the collection, and then I start pitching to companies. And this is mainly just fabric companies that I want to work with. Now, the second myth that I often hear is you can only work with one fabric company at a time. You can't work with multiple fabric companies. And in my first year as a surface designer, I told this to my husband, okay, I can only work with one company and that's it. And he's like, who set that rule? And I'm like, oh no, this is what I've learned. And he's like, I think you should really ask this company and ask if you could license with other people. And we actually had a bit of an argument. But I listened to him and I actually wrote to the art director and said, would it be okay if I license my work with other companies? And they were fine as long as I didn't use the same collection with them with another fabric company. So it all depends. Some fabric company wants you exclusively. You have to know what you negotiate with these companies. And then once you know what your contract or your exclusivity is, then you can license with other companies. So back to my pitching, if let's say fabric company one doesn't want my collection, I can proceed to the second fabric company, and it goes on and on like that. Now I have this extra process. Pitching is hard work. Licensing is hard and slow. So what happens if no one wants the collection? It happens. Sometimes fabric companies just don't want to license the collection. They don't think it's the right time for them. I take that to Spoonflower, which is a print-on-demand company, because there's no art director there, there's no curator there, there's no one to rate tape or decide if it's right for them. So I put that up on Spoonflower, and people buy the fabric then. And sometimes an art director comes along and said, "I like this pattern. We want to work with you." So that's basically how my process works.
It's very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. I have some more questions to go more deeply in the process. So when you prepare, come up with an idea what you want to create, and you make a collection. Is it a finished collection, just a polished patterns, or is just the kind of more sketchy collection, or do you finish it just till the very perfect end?
I It is a finished collection, so 10 would be my I think my maximum for a collection, because sometimes not all companies, even fabric companies, sometimes they don't want to license all of the patterns in a collection. So sometimes I give them the minimum of 6 patterns and to the maximum of 10 patterns in a collection. And it is usually finished work. Now, I understand what you're coming from with, at to what point do I call it finished? And I always believe that if I feel it's 80% done, I'm happy with it, it is finished.
Oh,
Because if I want it to be perfect, it's never going to be perfect. I will keep changing it and I'll keep tweaking it, and in the end, I never license it. Now, what people need to understand is once you pitch to a company and they accept the collection, they will tweak it. They will change it. They will change the color. They will change certain things of the pattern. So it's never 100% anyway. So the best thing to do for yourself is, if it's 80% done, it is enough. It is good enough.
yeah, I think it's very helpful to know for many beginner artists, beginner pattern designers, because sometimes we are too fixed on this perfectionism and want to make the ideal collection. Then maybe we will dare to pitch it somewhere. And how do you pack it? I mean, how do you present it? Do you have a portfolio with collections? Maybe it's a PDF that you send to clients, to companies, or do you have a website or a link, special link with this only visible for them?
I usually work with companies that's not within Australia. So in that sense, it's best to send PDFs. So I know some art directors like getting hard copies of the portfolio, but it's very expensive to ship from Australia to the US or the UK. So
Yes.
a lot of the times I have an email address. Sometimes I don't even have an email address. Sometimes I just have their a company website, and they just ask for a submission. So most companies, how I get their contacts is several ways. One is usually email. I will send an email, will attach a PDF of my latest collection, and I would also tell them that here's my website. If you like to have a look more, then there's the rest of my collections. The other way I approach companies is through their website, through their submission form. And the other way is I DM them on Instagram. So if there's companies that I really want to work with, I actually sometimes say, "Hi, I'm a service designer. I would love to work with you, and I love your brand. Could I, talk to an art director? Is there an email of an art director that I could approach?" Sometimes it's a yes and sometimes it's a no. Sometimes the person that has the who handles the social media account is actually the owner of the company. So they go, oh wow, okay, I love to work with you, and they have a look at my Instagram, and so that's one other way I approach companies. And the last one is I would attend trade shows, and I would take my iPad with my portfolio, and I go, and I have a business card, and I'll go, this is my portfolio. Like, do you have a minute to have a look at my portfolio? And here's my card, if in case you want to like talk on how to collaborate. So that's the scariest part of being a service designer is to like show up and talk to art directors. But it works. I have licensed my work that way before. And the best part is you get to keep the art director's business card, and then you can approach them whenever you have a new collection. So that's actually a really, really good method.
Yeah, I understand that it's so safe to work at your home in the studio and contact with everyone via emails, but I think that these personal connections are really strong, and maybe it's easier to make this contact personally.
Yeah.
And about the PDFs, if you don't mind, can you share with us? Maybe you have found the best way to present your patterns. How much of the mock-ups are there, or are these just the pages with filled with patterns, or like some explanations, or maybe some sets to better to make this and this together? Do you have
Yeah,
any?
yeah, good point. Yeah. So I usually have an introduction in my PDF. So it'll be an introduction about myself, a little bit personal things about like maybe I have a son or and also like what I like. So you want to create again that personal connection with the person who's actually reading your portfolio because if you're meeting them face to face, they get to see who you are. It's a really instant, personal, communication there. But when you're emailing someone, there is no connection. So you want to create that connection with the art director that you're sending your portfolio with. So the way to do that is to talk a little bit about yourself. And a lot of people don't like talking about themselves. So like things like, what they love, and then I show them my collection and I tell a little story about it because I often think that when you create a story, you set the scene for them of this story that's going to unfold with your art. So it's not just patterns, but there's a story and a connection that you create with your art that could resonate with with the art director. And then after that, there'll be the mock-ups, but the mock-ups is always specifically for that industry. So if it's fabric, the mock-ups are only for fabric companies. And if I change the mock-ups if I want to pitch that to a home decor company, I always change it to what I think that brand has in their store. So for example, this home decor company that I pitched to had umbrellas. I'll look for a mock-up with umbrellas and put my patterns on it. So that way they go, all right, she's taken an extra mile to personalize this portfolio for the company. And then I also do what you said, like I mix and match the patterns. For example, the hero print with a blender print. So it looks like beautiful, like or ornate pattern on the top, but at the bottom is a simple design that allows it to shine, but they both really work very well together. So the portfolio is it's a special little thing. It's not something you just slap, random prints on it. It's a way to really showcase your art. You put in a lot of thought in it, and then you have that. You have 10 seconds. You only have 10 seconds to wow an art director. You want it to be as beautiful as possible so they can go, yes, this is the one. This is the person I want to work with. So I always try to make that portfolio a little special for art directors.
Thank you. This is so helpful insights for all pattern designers. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And now, when you have a beautiful collection, very well presented in this PDF, highlighting all the best best angles of it, and actually almost personalized to the industry. Then you contact with companies. How many companies do you contact? Is it sending to 5 or to 50 or one a day, or how does it work in your process?
Okay. I guess it's a little bit like dating. So imagine if you're doing Tinder. I am very intentional with sending my portfolio out. So
Mhm.
I know art licensing is all about numbers, is how many companies that you pitch to, but at the same time, I am a little fussy on who I want to work with. So for example, imagine it's on Tinder, you're looking for a partner. You're not looking for, a one night stand. You want to like make sure this person is for you. And it's the same thing with working for a company. You want that company to be the brand that you're really proudly to work with. And so it's not about numbers, it's more about how good you feel with that company. And sometimes if I only have one company that I want to pitch to, then I'll just pitch to one company. But if I have like, okay, collections, right, is suitable for maybe this company too and this company too, so I'll pitch that. And if I feel like, okay, I think that's it, I don't want to pitch to anyone else, I just put it on Spoonflower and see what that takes me, and then just create more art, because it's our art is our product. So if you stop making art, you stop making products. And just because one collection isn't right for for one or two or three companies doesn't mean the rest of your art isn't going to be suitable for other people. So I think like it's not so much about, for me personally, it's not about numbers, but the connection you feel with that company, if you really want to work with that company, and if you really feel strongly about that company. And I feel like I can guarantee you that if you feel that way, if your intention and your purpose is like, I really want to work with this company, this connection is for them, it happens, it actually does come true.
Yeah, because we are more selective. I mean that you choose the one you like and you think that you can have this match. So you make the portfolio more personalized, and I'm sure that your email is has this match also with the brand, and they can feel this, and so the possibility of the positive answer to a pitch, it's higher. That I think that's why it works.
Yeah.
And if you go to the Spoonflower, I know that there are many artists who post their works on Spoonflower, but there is no sales. How do you promote your art there? How people find your artworks on Spoonflower?
Um, that would be social media. I think it's really important to actually tell people that you have a new collection on social media. And I think it's also important to um, the same with, this is a tip from one of my friends who's a top seller in Spoonflower. And what she does is she works with a lot of small companies, small businesses that sews and uses Spoonflower fabrics. And you can see that on Etsy. If you go on Etsy, there are a lot of makers, and you see that they make dresses or dog clothes. You can approach them and go, hi, this is my Spoonflower shop, I am a designer, I think that. And it's the same process all over again. You pitch to them saying that you think your print would do really well with their customers, and you talk to them, you create a connection. It doesn't always come to fruition, but they could go, all right, well, why don't I give them a go? Because they're already buying fabric on Spoonflower anyway, right? So one of the things that I would recommend is either go on Etsy, look at makers and approach them and contact them. The other things that I do is to give away fabrics. So I would order Spoonflower fabrics. I sometimes have giveaways. I don't do it very often, but in order to create that base of service to follow you, they will go, oh, she has fabrics. Oh, these are designs. I want to win some. And then you create an email list with this fabric service, and you, whenever you have a new fabric coming out, you can email them saying, hey, this is my new collection from Spoonflower. So it's very similar to pitching, but slightly different with more, I guess, marketing on social media and email lists.
Yeah, and do you, how much of your time and effort do you spend on social media? How often?
A lot. I would say, when I look at people on TikTok, when I see the young ones on TikTok, and I see how well they do on TikTok and social media on Instagram, I always feel that there is so much potential still on social media. I know, like, people talk about algorithms and they don't get the views and everything, but I think the other thing that people forget about social media is about making connections. It's about engaging with people, real people, and, you know, giving them value from that. And like when you connect with people, it attracts other people. It it's very organic that way. Like I've is my whole account is built organically through just connecting with people, engaging with them, answering their comments, and like serving them through reels. Like I love motivational reels, and I see them, and it always inspires me, and I feel like I want to give back to other people with inspirational stuff too. So it's a lot through social. My time is, I would say, 60% social media. Um, yeah, there's a lot of effort put in there, I would say.
But do you enjoy it? Because I
Oh, I
think it's
love it.
impossible. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, if you,
important.
I think if I didn't enjoy it, it would show.
Yeah, yeah, I
And I
really,
feel like, again, it's all about energy, that if you don't enjoy something, people can really tell, and they would not want to follow you, whatever the vibe is. They can tell that you're not telling the truth, you're being fake. I mean, people know these things.
yeah.
So, yeah, I personally really enjoy social media. I find it challenging, but like a good challenge.
Yeah, I can agree, totally agree. We have a question from Jenny in the comments. How long does it take you to come up with a design from start to designed product?
Uh,
I
with a design to
I think,
digitize.
yeah, I think maybe it's just, let's rephrase it. How long does it take you to create a collection from the idea when you draw it, put it all together, maybe prepare the files, and now, yeah, you have a collection that can be printed. Oh, we understand that it can be adjusted, and so on, but this 80% finished collection.
Okay, so if things are within my control, from creating a collection from an art file, I usually draw with Adobe Illustrator, with my Wacom tablet. But at the moment, I'm trying to learn how to use Procreate. But usually is Adobe Illustrator. So from creating my art to making it a collection, it roughly takes about a month, because I usually draw it out. I want to brainstorm what the collection is. I want to draw the motifs. I want to like, to me, it's all about storytelling, but through art form, because I think it comes from my background as a writer. So instead of using words, I use pictures now to illustrate the story. So I draw it in my notebook, and you'll see it in my reels. I always have a notebook, and I usually draw it out first. And then once I am clear of the story that I want to tell, I would draw it onto Adobe Illustrator. And that would take a month, because I need to create the color palette that I'm going to use, and it has to be a consistent story. It has to have consistent, like, to me, colors tie everything together, and the theme ties it all together. And So for that to take place is a month, and then for it to pitch to companies could take another month. Now, for it to become a product, it could take between 8 months to a year before it
Yeah.
actually becomes the product. That part I have no control over, but the
Yeah.
creative process is about a month.
Yeah. I think that question was about your process because, of course, to create a product, it's on their side. And coming to products, in your reels, we see so many beautiful bedlining and different decorations. Are these produced by the companies that licensed your art, or some of this maybe were printed by you on some platforms to print on demand? Do,
Ah,
do
okay.
you?
No, I don't it is all completely 100% by the company. And I don't print out through print on demand. So like one of the posts that you see on my Instagram is bed sheet collection and the towel collection. It was all for Target. Now is interesting is Target is a retailer. So a lot of people don't understand, don't realize this. And I didn't realize this until I was working with Target. Target don't print products out, but they work with manufacturers, or they work with companies that works with manufacturers. So it's a few process before it gets to a big retailer, because Target is mainly just consumer. They sell it to consumer, to customers. They don't print out the products, but they look for companies that works for manufacturers. And these companies that works with manufacturers, they are looking for artists so that they can pitch their work or pitch the concept to clients. So this particular company also works not just with Target, but also a fabric company. And they sometimes work with other company, home decor companies. So if you can look for that company, that middleman, that is like a key to getting your work out to major retailers. Now, I get questions on how do you get to know that this middleman. If you and it's quite simple. It's actually so simple that people get like mind blown about that. So if you just go to any huge retailer, you can go to Target, and you turn the product around, there will be a manufacturing companies at the back of that product, and these companies are the one that you want to try and pitch your art to, and because they create these products for other retailers.
Yeah, that's a wonderful life hack. There's a lot of questions also about tools that pattern designers use. Photoshop, Illustrator, Procreate. Was a question, what is the main tool for pattern designers nowadays? What do you think? I suppose it depends on your process, right? But
Yes.
many,
Absolutely. Okay, so Tracy was asking, is Illustrator the prime tool for designing for business? And that's one of the other myths that I want to talk about. Like, Illustrator is not the only software you can use or what companies accept for to license. You can use Procreate, and that's why I'm learning Procreate, because it's just, a little more flexible with like working with the pen tool. Sorry, I'm just turning my lights on. And then there are so many apps, like people use Fresco, people use Affinity,
okay.
people use all sort of different products, even painting. So with Photoshop, I don't use Photoshop. Because with Photoshop, it's mainly with artists. I think you would use something like Photoshop to put patterns together because you use watercolor and art. I guess I don't.
I use mostly Adobe Illustrator, but then when I want to make this texture of the marker of the acrylic paint, I use Photoshop. But it's easy to build a pattern in Adobe Illustrator, of course, because it makes repeat
Yes,
very well.
yeah, but you can use both. I mean, before I knew how to use Illustrator, I used to make patterns with Photoshop, and because it was more textural, like you said, it maintains the texture a lot better than Illustrator. there's good things with Illustrator, there's good things with Photoshop, and neither is better than the other. It just depends on the medium you use at the end of the day. So for Procreate, you can vectorize it for Illustrator, but you can also use Photoshop. So it really all depends at the end of the day what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe one of the last questions. You have talking about social media, and I saw that you have an art challenge there. Can you share a little bit about that? Because it looks really inspiring with these little notes when you're writing down, then create something.
Yeah. So I am really into storytelling, if you can't tell by now. Like I really love the concept of storytelling through writing or through art, but now I want to make reels because I can do storytelling through that. And one of the things that I often like am very drawn to do is to motivate myself and other people. So I always like to draw messages like, like the magic is within you, or trust yourself, have faith, because it's messages that I tell myself. So this art challenge that I'm doing is a 30-day art challenge from September 2nd to October 2nd. So it's running now. So if anyone's interested, you can feel free to join us, and you can use any medium to create. So I had not been creating art for many months. And the reason is because we had to move house like recently. And in that 2 months that I wanted to create art, I couldn't because we had to move. There was so much going on. And I was a little disappointed because usually this is my time to make art. Like summertime in America, um, and winter time in Australia is the quietest time to that art directors don't license during this time. It's just really quiet. So this is the best time for me to create art, but I couldn't because of the move. And so I decided that all right, I have to dedicate 1 month now that I've settled down to making art. So I thought, well, let's extend that invitation to other people because I know most of my American friends, their kids are back at school. So this is the moment where it's time for them to like get back into making art. I think it's the same with people in the UK as well. And so I extended the invitation to my community to make art during the 30 days. And I feel like 30 days challenges are the best time to just, you know, make art, because if you like art challenges are fun for that reason because of the community aspect, the aspect of community, the hashtags, the encouragement, the kind words. It really creates a vibe, and so that's why I decided that I wanted to create a art challenge, not just for me but for my community. And then I have friends like Stacy Bloomfield and Lisa Badar coming on for live interviews as well. So it's a little bit of an art party this whole month.
Yeah, sounds great. Check out Mabel's account to participate in the art challenge. I think it can give you a lot of inspiration. So, the very last question: what tips would you give to a beginner surface pattern designer, or maybe we didn't cover any topic that you wanted to talk about? Just some final tips to people who start their career in pattern design.
Yeah. Make lots of art. I think that would be my biggest tip is when I first started, I made a lot of bad art. And it was all ugly, and it was okay with me because I knew that in order to get better I had to create bad art first. So I always tell, my community to not be afraid to make ugly art and not be afraid to share it, because
Yes.
like I often find that people go like really shy about sharing their art because like, you know, it's the thing is ugly. But to me, it's a process. People will be able to see in a year time where you've been and where you are now and find it to be really inspirational. So I find that, that is also the best way to connect with other artists. They go, oh, well, you're starting your journey too. Let's be friends. And I find that connection on social media, that's why I like social media. It's where you create a connection, you create that relationship with other people, and you can really encourage each other. So I think if you keep showing up as you create that connection with other people. They'll follow your journey. They'll tell their friends about you, and you might create, and you never know who you might meet online. It could be a future business owner that goes, oh, I like that person art. I might want to work with her in the future, and you create that relationship. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah. I find it also extremely helpful, not only to practice, to create a lot, but also to share. It's because, yes, some of artists, they have this concept, okay, I have to create, but then they don't show their art to anyone because they're afraid. I can understand them, and I was also afraid of showing my art for a long time. But the moment I started to post on Instagram, I think was the starting point of my real artistic journey, because with every share, I gain more confidence, and I have kind of more space inside me to create new art because I shared the previous pieces. We have actually a lot of questions there, and I don't know how to answer all of them. Maybe you can, not you, maybe, but people who are asking this question, you can write them in the comments when I share this recording of this live. In the comments, if you post these questions, we will try to answer there. Maybe if Mabel, you can find some time to look through the comments.
Yes.
And if there is too many questions, then maybe we will think about another live on, on this topic if you have time, because I see that the pattern design topic is really hot. There is a lot of professional questions actually. And yes, they will be the recording. I also I will make a kind of newsletter with the highlights. So if you want not to miss it and get into your inbox, just subscribe to the newsletter. Okay, I think we're ready to finish, right? Mabel, thank you so much. It was super helpful live. I think it's like an instruction to a beginner's first pattern designer, and not to the very beginner, actually. You share with us so many tips, insights, life hacks, all your experience. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it a lot. And it was a great pleasure for me
Yes, it's such
to.
an honor to talk to you too. I am a big fan of you, and it's a
Thank you.
dream come true to be able to have this chat with you. So I'm so honored that you asked me. Um, I am also a huge geek on surface design, so I could talk about this for hours. So if you want to talk about this again, I am more than happy to. Just you know where to reach me now.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so it's I'm pleased. Thank you so much. Write us in the comments if you want to continue this surface pattern design party. Yeah, thank you, and have a
That's all right.
nice evening.
All
Right?
right. Thank you, everyone. See
Yeah.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.